Let's go to other stories outside our shores now. More than 36,000 people have been killed and tens of thousands injured after a magnitude quake of 7.8 earthquake struck Turkey and Syria last week. Rescue operations continue in the quake-hit areas as efforts are underway to pull out more survivors from the rubble. I believe we have our correspondent, UK correspondent, Juliana Olayinka, to tell us more about that. She is currently in Turkey, taking a look at the disaster, what has been going on in the last couple of days. Of course, she's been monitoring from the UK in the days that the quake first occurred. Juliana, I can imagine the horror that you've seen since you've gotten to Turkey. Give us an update on what's going on right now.
Good afternoon, John. I am in Istanbul, which is the commercial capital of Turkey, just about an hour's flight away, I would say, from the main disaster area. But it does appear as if Istanbul has become the focal point, for an immense amount of foreign aid. As you said, the death toll is absolutely shocking. I believe over 35,000 people have died. And I think lots of the aid agencies who are speaking to those right in the centre are saying, you know, a lot of this grief has now turned to anger because, of course, even though we are seeing sporadically moments of hope where people are pulled from the rubble alive, there are still so many bodies. I don't think the world has seen a disaster such as this since 1939. And it does come at a time where Turkey itself, as with so many other countries, is still struggling to revive their economy after COVID-19. I will be going off to Ankara tomorrow, which is the federal capital, where I will be speaking with our Nigerian ambassador, as well as other Nigerians who have been caught up in the disaster, because we know that Nigeria and Turkey do share very close ties, and there are, I have been told, Nigerians that have been caught up, their houses have been destroyed, and they urgently need help. And that is why we are in this place today, which is Doctors Worldwide, Turkey. I do actually have one of the heads of the coordinated response, who I would like to join me right now, Idil Alibay. Idil Alibay, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us on Channels Television. You can just come a little bit forward. Talk to me about, you know, what you're doing here. I can see you've got lots of young medics in the background. They're doing their best to volunteer. How serious is this humanitarian crisis?
Actually, it has been 7 days before the first earthquake in the epicenter of Kahramanmaraş, and it was big and devastating. And then almost 2,000 earthquakes happened in that area. So in Doctors Worldwide Turkey, we are doing primary healthcare servicing in addition to secondary healthcare services for many years, almost 23 years. So in this type of emergency response operations, we are doing here our storage. That was a meeting room before. We are collecting our medical equipments and medicines to send them to the fields, the earthquake zones. So currently we have in Kahramanmaraş, Hatay, the different medical camps and operations serving to people in that areas.
Yes, thank you so much. And, you know, there are so many places like this, Joker. As Idil was just saying, this was a meeting room, and I've been all across this building, and every single room that you go into, it's absolutely jam-packed full of medicine, food for babies, food for children, but it's just not enough. And, you know, not enough aid is getting in as fast as they would like. I think the reality is some of us have been desensitized, haven't we? We see so much on social media, but this is one of the worst humanitarian crises that the world has seen in almost 100 years. So they desperately need some help. But I am on the ground. You know, we are Channels Television, one of the first African, if not the only African TV station on the ground in Turkey at the moment. And I'll be bringing more updates from the Nigerian community who may have been impacted by this disaster.
Right, just before I do let you go, Juliana, we've seen rescue efforts. We've been reading about it and hearing about it in the last couple of days. You said there was anger and anguish at some point, but is there still optimism that, you know, more possible survivors will be pulled out? We've seen babies rescued. They've survived hundreds of hours, you know, under rubble. I hope the hope is not diminishing at this point.
Absolutely, Joker. You know, those pictures, those images of seeing babies alone, sleeping, waking, no food, and being pulled out alive, you know, it's absolutely phenomenal. And I think, of course, the hats do go off to the aid organizations. Not every aid organization is big. Not every aid organization is working for the United Nations. A lot of these individuals that we are seeing pulling people out of the rubble alive are just normal community members who are getting, you know, their toolkits and their hammers and doing their best to look for hope. And, you know, that is a great thing. Again, I have been at this centre all day and speaking to the senior members of the team who are leading this absolutely mammoth project. You know, they're saying there is hope. That's why we've got these young volunteers, these teenagers, these young women, you know, spending hours upon hours packaging up these goods in the hope that it can get to those who desperately need it. Talk about the death toll, Joker, that's over 30,000. If we talk about the people who are impacted, we're talking 23 million people. One of the disaster areas is about the same size as France, and it's been totally wiped out. It's been totally wiped out. So, of course, at the moment, everybody is talking about some of the horror stories that we are seeing. Of course, we cannot forget the devastating amount of lives that have been lost. But this is slowly unfolding into a significant humanitarian crisis. And bearing in mind, during the war in Syria, it was Turkey that took the burden of those refugees. And now a lot of people have found themselves internally displaced within their own borders.
Thank you very much for that update. Our London correspondent, Juliana Olayinka, speaking to us from Istanbul in Turkey, where she's covering that huge disaster for us.